What brings us together as humans? It's feelings, isn't it? We all feel, respond, and react emotionally to life's ups and downs. We deal with relationships and events all the time. Some we can cope with, some we can comprehend and find reasons for, and others can be really confusing and disturbing. These are some of the queries that challenge people in their everyday lives. In this series, I have attempted to address a few common issues that you may be dealing with, or you may know someone else who needs help with these questions. I'd like to remind you that there are no good or bad questions and no stupid people for asking them. There is no stigma attached to anyone who may be troubled because of these issues. This series is to help you or someone you know to get an inspiration and an alternate view of some of the topics we are going to be talking about. These common issues, you may find that you relate to them too. So listen on.
Join spiritual psychologist and India's #1 biofeedback practitioner, Ritu Malhotra, as she guides you through the paths of self-discovery and personal transformation so that you can live in alignment with your values and purpose. This podcast is brought to you by Ajna Center for Learning. To know more about Ajna and connecting with the host, check out the links given in show notes. You are listening to the Cellular Alchemist podcast, and here's your host, Ritu Malhotra.
Suppression equals depression. Let's talk about this. Depressed people don't all walk around with long faces or cry at the least provocation. No, it's not that obvious. It actually starts with some statements like, I feel down. Everything looks so grey. Gosh, I'm so helpless. Who could be more useless than me? It's all worthless. This always happens to me. I should have been able to get my act together. Why couldn't I? I can't get out of bed. If it wasn't for me, this would never have happened. It just takes too much effort to do it. I don't have the energy anymore. I'm so tired of dealing with this. This is what depression sounds like. And how does it show up? How can we see it in actions? Sometimes in fatigue, in hopelessness or helplessness. At times, a loss of interest, difficulty in concentration maybe, or a pulling away from social activities altogether. Now, for all of us, life can be hard at times, of course. We all have to confront basic existential realities like mortality. Our own mortality included. Say a friend's death or someone close to you commits suicide, or a loss of livelihood, or natural disasters even like floods or tsunami or something like that. These events shake us up and remind us how impermanent life is. We deal, we grieve, we hold loved ones tightly together and remind ourselves that life is short. We must live to enjoy what we have and then move on. Depression. What does it mean to depress something? To push it down? The next question to ask is, what is getting pushed down? Your natural emotions, of course. Why do people need to push down their emotions? Most likely so that they can fit in with other people's expectations. When I ask a client, you have to address the main issue, I say. What are you pushing down? She says, my anger. And why are you pushing down your anger? Because if I show my anger, I'll be a bad person. In other words, if I push down my needs and feelings, I will be accepted and possibly loved. Now ask yourself, do you want to be loved by paying that heavy a price? What's the price? Disconnecting from yourself, your needs, your desires, your self esteem. That is the heavy price. See, depression is a roadblock. Depression is the most common and ever increasing issue in our society today. And the alarming thing is that most often it goes unnoticed, to dismissing it as, oh, it happens to everyone, or it's just a phase, get over it. I must clarify here that I'm not talking of sadness. We go through times of unhappiness. We may be sad or grieving for a loved one, as I said before, or going through a time of uncertainty or upheaval. Depression is different. It's deeper and it's more consistent. Depression is when we are unable to get out of the negative thinking and it begins to affect our daily activities. Like we are unable to sleep, or we are sleeping too much, starving or overeating, not having energy to work or becoming a workaholic. Either way, the person who feels this state is dealing with the meaninglessness of their life. They are haunted by the experience of an inner emptiness, of a void within themselves, inside, like an existential vacuum. So let's take another look at this issue. The World Health Organization says that 4% of the world's population are diagnosed with depression. Around 300 million people. Yes, 300 million people. I can't even count that far. Has it just increased in the recent past? What do you think? Or are we only talking about it freely now more than we ever did before? It's only in the last few years that it's an acceptable topic of conversation, even. We are beginning to ask ourselves, is this a disease of modernity? Very high expectations, perhaps, for what we feel our lives should be. Perhaps there's more focus on goals such as money, image, fame, which makes me think of another probability. Is this so because the unreasonable emphasis is on you can be whatever you want to be? Haven't we all heard that? Then there's another thought. Is it because our relationship and community ties are weakening? We are definitely more isolated and yet more connected than we ever were before. Why is this happening?